hold all traffic on the Key Bridge. There's a ship approaching. It just lost their steering.
C-13 dispatch. The whole bridge just fell down. Start, whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
Yo! What the?
We did bring in one of NTSB's senior hazmat investigators today to begin to look at the cargo and the cargo manifest. He was able to identify 56 containers of hazardous materials. That's 764 tons of hazardous materials, mostly corrosives, flammables, and some miscellaneous hazardous materials, Class 9 hazardous materials, which would include lithium-ion batteries.
Are you advising there's 13 people in the water?
Possibly 13 people in the water at this time. The construction crew.
Divers located a red pickup truck submerged in approximately 25 feet of water in the area of the middle span of the bridge. Divers recovered two victims of this tragedy trapped within the vehicle. The victims were identified as Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes, 35 years old, of Baltimore, and Dorlian Ranial Castillo Cabrera, 26 years old, of Dundalk.
It was a very dramatic scene, but we are talking about a very large vessel. This is a container ship. Container ships are large. Now, this is an average size container ship, but it is roughly 300 meter long, 50 meter wide. And as far as I know, the dead weight of the vehicle is about 100,000 ton. This is huge. Even with the small speeds, it has a very large momentum, and the force that exerts on the structure is massive. So no questions, when it hits, it's going to destroy the structure. And the bridges that allow for shipping, especially when it's closer to the ports, they have a span, a very large span, to allow for the shipping to happen underneath. Now, if a collision happens like this one, the design is such that it shouldn't be due to the difficulty in passing. You shouldn't need a specific skills to do that in terms of the pilots. So it's either something would be gone wrong with the ship, which happened in this case, or there is human error. And this bridge was one of them that would stand out in terms of the length of the span. It's one of the largest one. And unfortunately, this meant when the collision happened, it collapsed quite quickly. So that's everything again came together in this very catastrophic situation. It's a huge disaster, no questions about it, but it could have been worse. It seems like, from what we know, the crew has lost control over the ship. There has been some issues. We see the footage that the main engine and the auxiliary are gone off. Now, this would be a moving vehicle that could go in any direction, that could have any damage. It could have hit other places. If there was another vessel there, that could be leading to other disasters. So it could be worse, yes. I would be interested, if it was me, to calculate the impact load on the bridge and then see whether something was wrong structurally. I don't know the details, but I doubt it that would be an area of issues. Now, the bridge was designed in 1970s, early 80s. That's where it was used. Now, things have changed a lot compared to 40, 50 years ago. The main issue here is what has happened to the ship. The blackouts, the engines not being responsive is not, it has happened before, but it's rare. This has happened, unfortunately, at the very wrong location, very wrong timing. So everything have kind of came together for this to happen. It would be an interesting thing to look at it from the ship point of view. of what has gone wrong to result in the ship losing control, basically.
How much do you think they'll be able to learn from the black box data recording?
Well, that's a very reliable and very good source in order to understand what has happened and in order to understand the crew's response. From what we know, there has been a mayday call, and they've been making attempts. The ship, as far as I know, has been moving with relatively. My initial thought was that it's going a little fast, but 8 or 9 knots. It's not too fast, but at the time that this has happened, they could see the event happening, but there's nothing they can do for a ship that is out of control. It seems like they have tried to use the anchorage, and they have tried to restart the engine. So that would tell us a little bit more about what has been done in terms of the crew. It would be also interesting to know what has resulted in this. There are thoughts because, it's similar to the airplanes. When ships leave the port, they have a checklist. They go over controlling everything, auxiliary engine, and this is soon after that. So something has gone wrong, and finding the answer to that would be a key to the investigation. I know they will be looking into data about the ship, about what controls, what checks has been done to the engine, to the auxiliary system, to the entire system. I would envision that they would dive into details such as even the fuel that is used and the property of the fuel that is used. And those things will take some time to root back to where things started. Typically, when we design bridges, we're typically looking into loads from the top, from machinery, cars, vehicles, trucks, and loads that are pushing the bridge down. We look into wind loads. We look into seismic loads, the loads on the foundations, so geotechnical aspects. New designs are considering a lot the way wave loads and current loads in the case of storm surge and larger storms hitting the bridge from underneath, and especially in the US, many bridges collapse. Now, there is also a consideration of impact from ship and barges and other things, but that's a very complicated area to go because what we do is we consider a probability usually, and we consider a design ship, and we consider design scenarios of the impact, and then we take risk, basically. We say underneath this type of load, we design it to withstand, but beyond it, like many other engineering projects, is not economical to build something that would never collapse. So it's a probability analysis that we take in the risk analysis. In the past roughly 60 years, there has been less than 40 collapse of the bridges due to the ship collision. Now you can think about the number of ships that pass bridges, and that's worldwide, by the way. You can think about the number of bridges that pass that pass bridges around the world on daily and annual basis, and this is a very, very small number. There are many accidents that don't result in an entire collapse. There are minor damages to the bridge, and those are fixed. So it's a very unlikely event to happen, but it is possible, as we see. And in the future, we learn usually from this kind of mistake. We take extra cautious. We sometimes try to improve the designs to stand the relatively larger loads. But it's almost never going to be that it's impossible, that it's never going to happen.